Following all my years across professional sport, elite level coaching, and now in the world of entrepreneurship and business, there is one distinct attribute that firmly separates people who have achieved prolonged success and great achievements from those who haven't. And that is consistency. Consistency. It is the number one trait and attribute within someone's character that has really helped get them to a certain level and sustain that level. So in this episode of the Kirk podcast, I want to break down 7 steps to creating greater consistency, but make it even more relevant, of course, to probably one of the main reasons you have subscribed to this channel, or you maybe listen to this channel for the first time, and that is to help you with your health, your body, your physical identity, if you're not quite where you want to be. You know, one of the things I've prided myself on across, I've said on previous podcasts, the last 24 years since I left school, but even way before that, since I could walk, talk, and run around, I really believe one of my greatest traits is consistency, especially when it comes to staying in great physical shape. And I want to break down 7, I've said steps, but it's more so questions, 7 questions that if you continually ask yourself these questions on a week-to-week basis, your chances of taking your consistency with your training, your movement, your food, even your mindset will increase dramatically simply by asking yourself some logical questions. Because I really believe the quality of questions you ask yourself will direct you to what you need to focus on in any given area. And having coached for so many years now and got some of the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet in phenomenal shape, and for me, being one of the few coaches, and alongside my team, of course, in actually helping people stay in shape, at the heartbeat of that success has been asking our clientele the right questions when they needed them. So I really believe the questions that I'm going to present to you today, you should write them down and refer back to them on a week-to-week basis. Because one thing I've been fascinated by in all of my coaching, across all of the high performers, even great training partners that I've trained with and mentors and all this stuff is, you know, what do they do to optimize their training, their movement, their food? How do they manage themselves? How are they more effective, productive? Not just with their physique, but in their personal life. How do they do what they do? And the reality is, every single person has an individual way of creating consistency. And I think the people who struggle with their consistency aren't clear enough on what it is that actually makes them consistent. So these questions I really, really think will help you magnify what you need to do to train optimally, eat more optimally, get more movement in, especially if you're a busy entrepreneur, business owner, because I feel even with movement, for example, that is one of the most common things that people struggle with when they have a lot more people to think about. Okay. So I'll keep this episode as short as I possibly can, but as long as needed, just to give you a little bit of context in relation to each of the questions. First question I want you to ask yourself is, what makes you train at your best? If you are trying to become more consistent with your training, you need to identify what it is that's going to help you get the most out of your training. And that can be different for each person. But if you can really magnify, for example, what is the environment that allows me to train at my best? What time of day do I typically work harder, create more output, lift more? What time of day or what do I do with my training that makes me enjoy my sessions more? Basically give you the biggest ROI, of course, on that time and behavior of training. Because if you can really identify like what makes you train at your best, then you're going to progress quicker, because you can't meet your expectation of your physique your strength, your muscular development, for example, if you're not training at your best. Because the harsh reality is the longer you've been training, the margins for improvement get a lot smaller. I mean, I'm nearly 40 now and I've been training years. And what can be a little bit demoralizing sometimes is thinking that you're going to make massive, massive strides with your strength and adding lean muscle as you get older. You're not. Once you're over that first 1 to 2 year period, the rate at which you increase your strength, increase your muscle, or even optimize fat loss, it's small and steady. And there's a lot of bullshit out there saying otherwise. So if you are looking for that 1 to 5% improvement across your strength, your muscular development, then what's going to help you do that is really pinpointing how you can get the most out of your sessions, whether you train 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Like for example, I trained 4 times a week, and I've played around with different training times, training by myself, training with partners, all this type of stuff. And, I'm pretty clear now on when I train at my best. And a best case scenario for me, for example, is training as early as I can in the morning now. And that has shifted even the last 6 months. Notoriously, for the last sort of 3-4 years, I've typically trained late morning or early afternoon. But what I realized was, and this is only this year, with so much on in work and business and tasks and team, and you got a partner relationship, all that type of stuff, the later I left or leave my time to train, the more rushed that session can be sometimes. So for me, training as early as I can in the morning before I focus on other people's agenda works optimally for me. There's specific gyms, which you can't always control, of course, that are more conducive to an even higher intensity-based session. I've got my preferred gyms in Dubai. I have one preferred gym in London. And of course, when I'm outside of that environment, if I can't control the people, the energy, the standards within that gym, which obviously rub off on yourself, then I create that standard and create the environment as best I can. Like for example, I've recently been to Ibiza. The gym didn't have much equipment, didn't have heavy weights, but I still got myself in the mindset of how can I get the best out of this training session. And the one thing that still allowed me to train at my best in relation to the tools I had was training pretty much first thing after I've had a morning coffee, had some water, etc. But ask yourself, what makes you train at your best, that keeps you consistent with executing really hard, effective training sessions? And then make sure that your weekly plan factors that in. Okay. Number 2, how do you control your quality/quantity of your calories optimally? Basically, how do you control your food optimally when you feel really, really consistent, when you know you've had a great week of eating, you've controlled your calories, you've controlled the quality of calories a lot better than maybe other weeks? What do you actually do? What do you specifically do the weeks that you just feel you've really, really stayed disciplined with your calorie targets, your quality of calories? What do you actually do? What do you do more of? What do you do less of? How do you control it? Nothing's going to give you more confidence with your physique than actually controlling the food you put in your mouth. Right? That's your energy in, of course. Your calorie quantity will dictate whether you put on weight or lose weight or maintain weight. The quality of calorie will optimize your body condition, your body fat. Whilst in a calorie deficit, it'll optimize your performance, of course, with all your strength, your cardiovascular work, etc. But how do you control your quality and quantity of calories optimally? What do you do? Evaluate the last 6 months or even the last month. But what I suggest is, if you're listening to this at the time I've recorded this, it's around June. So you would have enough data if you were to evaluate the last 4, 5, 6 months, you would have enough data to realize, when do I eat better? And how did I create the outcome of eating better? Because it didn't happen by chance. You can't just fluke your way to a consistent week of eating. Right? Did you prepare a different way? Did you outsource your food? Did you track your calories? Did you operate from a fixed meal plan? Did you outsource? What did you do? Did you do something different, perhaps at the weekend if you were eating out? Just the more pinpoint you can be with identifying what you actually did during the week, during the weekend, then try and replicate that as many weeks as possible moving forward, and watch how much better you feel, watch how much better you look, watch how much better you perform as a result of taking care of what you eat. Number 3, and listen to the wording of this question. How do you easily hit your daily step target? Not just how do you hit your step target, how do you easily hit your step target? Look back at the last 6 months. Look back at the data on your phone, your Apple Watch, your Fitbits, however you tend to track your steps. You would have some weeks where the steps were through the roof. Again, that didn't happen by chance. What did you do? How did you plan your day? Did you do certain things that you didn't do on other weeks when your steps were low? You must have done. You must have done. I think one of the key clues for me, that we've sometimes said this to clients too, one of the key ways to identify or try and pinpoint the weeks that you felt even more on point with your steps, your food, your training, but if we just address steps for now, is after the new year, most people are extremely motivated to crank their movement up because they're probably put on some weight at Christmas, get all their sessions in, eat better food. Why? Because you've got more motivation, because usually it's from a place of pain, because you feel like shit after putting on some weight, feeling a bit sluggish, overeating. How did you make sure that you comfortably smash your step target? How did you comfortably make sure that you smashed your daily step target? And then do more of that. Because if you've done it once, you can do it before. A lot of people, when they're months and months into the year, all of a sudden create bullshit stories and put barriers up of, oh, I've not got enough time to get my steps in. I've not got enough time to eat healthy. I've not got enough time to get my sessions in or train, as long as maybe you did in January. But it's bullshit, really, because if you've done it once, you've done it again. Yes, we can have some weeks which are heavily compromised. I have these weeks too where you've just got so much on, but ultimately it's your decision to choose to allow your calendar to have a lot on. And if you continually let work priorities overtake your movement, your training, your food, then you are making that decision to put work before your health and body, or however you look and feel. Okay. So address that. How do you easily hit your daily step target? Number 4. What is the one thing that makes you more organized and productive? We all have weeks where we look back at the end of the week and go, God, I got so much done that week. I got so much done this week. It didn't happen by chance. From all my years of coaching and working with some insanely smart, organized people within the Built to Last program, they don't, you can't fluke your way to that organization and productivity. Right? We all feel better when we're accomplishing more. When we're accomplishing more in business, when we're accomplishing more with our training, accomplishing more with time with loved ones, basically squeezing more out of that 160-hour week. But what is the one thing that makes you more organized and productive? Again, even if you evaluate the last 4 weeks, out of those 4 weeks, which one's more productive? When did you feel more organized? And why do you think you were more organized? What did you do? Did you plan your week at a certain time, on a certain day, in a certain place? Did you prioritize 3 tasks a day, 5 tasks a day, 1 task a day? What did you actually do? What was the core reason, basically, that allowed you to follow through more? Because ultimately, productivity for me is a representation of you following through on more things that you said you would do. But there would have been certain rituals, actions and behaviors that created that. Okay, but what is the one thing that you know every time you do it? Every time you do it, you get your training in, you get your movement in, you eat good food, as well as get your work tasks done and factor in time for your family. What is the one thing? Mine is, without question, on a weekly basis, planning my week. Never not going into a week without knowing when I'm going to train, what am I going to train, when am I going to eat, where am I going to eat, when am I going to move, what are the key non-negotiables from a work perspective, and have I factored in some fun? Okay, but the one behavior and the habit is planning my week. Number 5, what is your one morning ritual that sets you up to win for the day? What is your one morning ritual that sets you up to win for the day? So many great quotes. I probably said these on previous podcasts, but you win the morning, you win the day. Eat your biggest frog first. Eat the biggest frog first. I'm sure everyone's got their own thing that sets them up to win for the day. Again, I've had some great conversations recently with some great friends and clients, and everyone's got their one thing. It's not always the same. I've got some clients, for example, who love their one thing that sets them up to win for the day is breathing and meditation. For many of our other clients, it's training. For other people, it's getting some fresh air and walking. Some people, when we asked this question at one of our events, it was having a morning coffee and just getting clear on what they needed to focus on that day. But what is your one morning ritual that when you do that one thing, you accomplish more across the day? You are more consistent with your training, your movement, your food. Basically, you do what you said you would do. Because if you start the day strong, usually that's the ripple effect for eating better, training more effectively, moving more frequently than not. If you kick off the morning in a reactive state, negative, stressy, so often shitty eating decisions follow that. Because remember, emotions drive our decision making. So the one most powerful thing in the morning should be the thing that optimizes your state. And a little bit of advice on that, I would say do something first thing that serves your mind, body, or both first thing. Because it's going to put you in an empowering state. And from an empowering state, you make better decisions. Okay. Ultimately, how you feel at the end of the day is going to be the byproduct of your decision making across that day. Number 6 is, what is your one evening ritual that ensures you end your day strong? Let's say that again. What is your one evening ritual that ensures you end your day strong? It basically guarantees that you finish the day as strong as you said you would at the start of the day. And this is something over the years that I've been a little bit slack with. You start the day strong, but you don't wrap it up cleanly. You don't wrap the day up cleanly. And if we're going to be really granular here, most people go to shit with their food in the evening because their willpower's gone, they're stressed, they're tired, might have had a frantic day at work, might have gone to an argument with their partner, kids stressing them out. But if you can do one thing that ensures you end your day strong, that is for you, then that can be the difference in dropping body fat, being as lean as you want, going to the next day more well rested because you've slept well, for example. But what is your one evening ritual that ensures you end your day strong? For some people, it could be making sure that 20 minutes, an hour before bed, they don't touch their phone. For some people, e.g. me, I make sure I do not end my work day without knowing the next day, when am I going to train, when am I going to move, when am I going to eat, do I know what my key priorities are, and who do I need to show up as that next day. It allows me to rest easier in the evening, so I'm not thinking about work. I'm not in a reactive state, and this is why I do not find it hard to eat healthy in the evening. When a lot of the world who struggle with their physique and body weight overconsume calories in the evening, it all comes down to state. Right? If you're trying to be consistent with your behavior and reactions, you need to be consistent with your emotional state. But what is your one evening ritual that when your willpower is shot, if you do that one thing, that one behavior, that few minutes for yourself as a minimum, you know that you've finished the day strong. And to help you find what that is. Even if you look back the last week, look back in the last 7 days, and what day did you feel you felt you ended the day really, really strong and went to bed happy? Maybe you slept better. Maybe you had a better conversation with your partner. You were more present with your children. You were just calmer after a long day. What did you do? Then do that as many times as possible moving forward and watch how much better you feel. Then lastly, if we're trying to become more consistent, really simple question you can ask is, what piece of advice do you have to stay consistent? So if you were giving me some advice right now on how I could become more consistent as a result of what you do to stay more consistent, what would that be? So if you were giving me advice right now on how to be more consistent with my training, my movement, my food, basically looking after me, what would you say to me? What is the one thing you would say to me to stay consistent? And then whatever the advice is you give to someone else, you are conscious about what it actually takes to be consistent, but so often we don't heed our own advice. So whatever it is you would advise to someone else, maybe you might want to think about adhering to that as much as possible. Because if you can consciously think about what it takes to become consistent and to operate with consistency more often with how you manage yourself, you can do it, but you just maybe choosing not to, or maybe not doing it as frequently as what your expectations need. Okay. And that's that, guys. So there's seven questions, and some might resonate with you more than others. But consistency isn't created by chance. Willpower does not last. Motivation alone will not take you to that dream physical identity you want, that dream level of confidence you want. You have to create it. And the key to creating consistency is asking yourself better questions on a daily basis. And then when you know the answers to these questions, which you should have these now after going through these 7 questions, take ruthless action. Be violent with your action, your implementation. Because the body you have right now, the confidence you have, the energy you have, the physical vibrancy you have, the consistency of certain positive emotions are all driven by what you do. There are no accidents in this game. There are no accidents. You can't fluke your way to a greater body. You can't fluke your way to optimal energy across the year. It comes from what you do, right? You've got movement in, you've got food quality in, you've got food quantity in, you've got training out, you've got movement out. You got your water, your sleep, the core drivers, as I said before. But your implementation of these things is going to be the determining factor on how you look. It's as simple as that. And ultimately how you look influences how you feel. Okay, they work together. Okay, and that's that, guys. So not too long an episode today. I just wanted to give a little bit of context on these questions. But I promise you, people overcomplicate this game of getting and staying in shape. It's not complicated, but you have to be disciplined with the basics. And these questions today should help you identify what you do, not what I do, what you do and what you need to do more of to take your consistency to another level. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have had enough time on this earth to realize when you are consistent with your training, your movement, your food. When you have started the day strong, ended the day strong, and just simply felt better. Just do the actions and behaviors, the ways of planning, whatever it is, that are going to create that. So thank you so much, as always, guys, for listening. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me on social media. Love to hear what your answers were to these questions. You know, I love even learning what other people do. I mean, I've learned of clients as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you do with your own personal planning that creates consistency. Okay. And that's that. So thank you so much, as always, guys. I'll see you next time.